What's up, guys? I'm Andrew Erickson, aka the Props Prophet. I'm coming at you with my favorite player props for week 3 of the NFL season. But before we dive in, start to build that bankroll, if you want to win a chance to sign a James Cook Buffalo Bills jersey, all you have to do is subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now, comment below in this video, and that is it. I'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. Now, let's get to the best bets for week 3. Lamar Jackson over 7.5 rushing attempts. Given the weather calling for some wind and rain, it's probably smart to bet the over on Lamar Jackson's 7.5 rushing attempts prop. He's hit the over in 10 of his last 14 games. He's averaged 9 rushing yards and attempts per game this season. 12 scrambles overall, 6 design runs in total. Just last week, Lamar Jackson had 5 design runs after all the running backs got hurt. So with Justice Hill also questionable to play in this game, I think Jackson's going to continue to see a ton of rushing usage in Todd Monken's offense in week 3. The Betting Pros prop bet cheat sheet has Jackson's rushing prop listed at 9.3 attempts, giving a 70% chance of covering. I also really actually think Lamar Jackson's plus money odds to throw 1.5 touchdowns is actually a really good bet as well. So both the quarterbacks the Colts have faced this season have thrown 2 passing touchdowns. Jackson has thrown at least 2 touchdowns in 5 of his last 8 games played, with Rashad Bateman, basically just a healthy wide receiver that's an NFL guy in the starting lineup. So I'm really in on Lamar Jackson this week. I think that I like a lot of his overs in an easy matchup against the Colts. Speaking of Baltimore Ravens, Zay Flowers over 48.5 receiving yards. The Colts are one of the teams that is emerging as a pass funnel defense. Basically, teams are trying to avoid their really strong defensive front. They've allowed just 2.6 yards per carry on the ground this season. Essentially, it's a no-run zone, except for one big run by Travis Etienne back in week 1. Therefore, I expect the offense to throw through Lamar Jackson, which is why we like his props. And he's completing nearly 70% of his passes through 2 games. He's getting the ball out faster than he's ever done in his NFL career. So I just like betting the overs on Lamar and betting on the overs on Zay Flowers. His receiving yards prop at 48.5. He's gone over that number twice already this year. Over his first 2 games, Flowers ranks 5th in the NFL with a 31% target share, 90% route share. The Colts have allowed the 4th most receiving yards and receptions to wide receivers this season. So for me, I like the over of Zay Flowers receiving yards. I also like the over on his receptions prop, 4.5 at plus money on DK Sportsbook. Zay Flowers for me, give me all the overs. Now we're going with an under here with this next one. Ezekiel Elliott under 7.5 receiving yards. Look, he was really involved in the passing game in week 1, but we saw that kind of go away as the Patriots realized, like, hey, we probably shouldn't throw the ball to Zeke anymore because he's dust. He's averaged 3 yards per reception this season. After seeing 7 targets in week 1, he saw a grand total of 0 targets in week 2, as it should be. So even if Ezekiel Elliott gets any targets or catches any balls in this game against the Jets, I imagine he's not going to do anything with them because he's not someone that's explosive anywhere that can create yards on his own. So we know the Patriots are going to probably throw less anyway against the New York Jets' really tough defense. It's going to be more of a back and forth kind of grinded out game between 2, let's be real here, like bad offenses versus 2 really good defenses. So Ezekiel Elliott under 7.5 receiving yards. Feel very, very strong about that. And the prop bet cheat sheet agrees, taking the under on Ezekiel Elliott and his receiving props. But I'm taking the over on this running back's receiving props. Jalen Warren, over 2.5 receptions. This is at plus money over at BetMGM. I love this prop. This is probably my favorite one on the card this week. So he has 2.5 catches at least in 4 straight games, including 4.5 per game. That's his average over his last 2 this season. Jalen Warren is tied for the team or the league lead in targets among running backs this year with 11. He's the preferred receiving back in the Steelers' backfield over Najee Harris, and I think Warren's going to fly over 2.5 receptions. It's a no-brainer bet for me at plus odds. The Raiders lead the NFL in completion percentage allowed on defense at 82%. And this is because they play a cover 2 shell. Basically, they're putting their safeties back all the time, basically just daring teams like to have to nickel and dime them, death by 1,000 paper cuts, whatever cliche you want to use. And that means a lot of Jalen Warren, a lot of Pat Freiermuth in this game. So Jalen Warren over 2.5 receptions at plus money. Easily my favorite bet, and probably the guy that I would label as my stone cold lock of the week. Jalen Warren over 2.5 receptions. Now, this is the stone cold lock of the week last week, which did not fire, unfortunately, but the process was sound. We almost had it, guys. Deshaun Watson over 26.5 rushing yards, minus 115 over at DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm going to bet this basically every single week because I still think the yardage total is still too low. Look, Watson is still averaging around that 30 rushing yards per game since becoming the Browns' starting quarterback. Look, week 1, it was 45 yards. Week 2, he's at 22 yards. So we just came short of the prop. But one of his scrambles got erased because of a penalty. So he lost 7 rushing yards because the play got called back due to a penalty. So he actually had the over last week too, but it got erased because of a penalty. So I'm going to trust the process here. I'm going to continue to pound the over on Deshaun Watson's rushing yardage props. The Tennessee Titans are going to get after him with pressure. He's going to have to scramble, and I think he's going to pick up yards with his legs. DeAndre Hopkins, same game, under 51.5 receiving yards. So Hopkins needs volume to kind of get to any of his yardage totals, and that doesn't really work in his favor in a really tough matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Hopkins doesn't create yards after the catch anymore. He's averaging 1 yard after the catch per reception this year. He's still dealing with this ankle injury that has basically eliminated his ability to practice over the last 2 weeks. And we saw him kind of limited in this like weird role in week 2 after not practicing. He only ran around on 72% of the dropbacks in week 2, and he only had 1 target in the first half. So he got more involved in the second half of the game, but considering how much better Tannehill played in week 2 versus week 1, when he was basically jamming targets to DeAndre Hopkins, I think that they're going to try to probably spread the ball out a little bit more because that's where their offense has had more success. So for me, especially with some like weird Cleveland weather, which seems like it's always going to happen, wind, rain, just because of where Cleveland is located, I'm going to take the under on DeAndre Hopkins at 51.5 receiving yards. More unders here because I'm lame. Terry McLaurin under 4.5 receptions. I also like the under on his receiving yards prop at 52.5. I'm basically kind of just fading the Commanders' passing game overall. So Sam Howell's only gone over 220 passing yards in one of his 3 NFL starts, which was last week. And that came on the back of 3 plays of 30-plus yards. The majority of those chunky yardage plays came on yards after the catch. Like, a lot of it was screen passes. McLaurin's biggest play this year is that 30-yard touchdown catch he had last week. If you eliminate that catch, again, I'm not trying to poke holes in players, but just being real here. Look, he has 6 catches for 55 yards. So if he doesn't convert that big play, I mean, McLaurin's going to go way under this total. So especially because his target share, his target rate in the offense, 14% target rate per route run is not great. 16% target share. I mean, his target rate per route run is the same as Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. 16% target share is not good. So he's going to catch 5 balls with that small of a target share on an offense that's probably not going to throw the ball a ton. The weather's not supposed to be good for this game. So I expect that the game plan for the Commanders is they're going to want to give the ball to Brian Robinson, which means less passing attempts overall. So unless McLaurin beats me with a deep pass like he did last week, I just don't think that's going to happen again. So taking the under on Terry McLaurin. If anything, I would take the over on Brian Robinson's rushing attempts because I think that's really what the game plan is going to be for the Commanders against the Buffalo Bills defense. This is one of my favorites. So getting a little weird here, but Jonathan Mingo, rookie wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, over 38.5 receiving yards. Hear me out. Time to buy low on the Panthers offense, honestly, guys, with Andy Dalton under center. Look, rookie quarterbacks have been notorious for basically holding back fantasy production. So I like targeting some of these Carolina wide receivers with the red rifle under center. Because Bryce Young, look, through 2 weeks was horrible. Like, just being totally honest with you guys. Catchable target percentage ranked last per fantasy points. No quarterback was setting his wide receivers worse than Bryce Young was. But you know who's going to be an upgrade? Andy Dalton. He ranked second behind only Brock Purdy last year in catchable target percentage. So Jonathan Mingo's been struggling because he just hasn't had any accurate targets going his way. He saw 10 targets in week 2, had over 100 air yards, and that netted him 26 receiving yards on 3 catches. That was despite the fact he's running a route on every single one of Bryce Young's dropbacks except for 1. So no wide receiver this year so far has a bigger difference in total receiving yards, 43 for Jonathan Mingo, versus expected receiving yards, which is 117 just based on Jonathan Mingo's usage this year. So I think that this is a breakout game for Jonathan Mingo against this horrible Seattle defense. I think we can see a massive game for Mingo. He's got the quarterback upgrade in week 3 against an atrocious Seattle defense. He has a 22% target share, which leads the team, 44% air yard share. That's 10th overall in the NFL. So unless you're really afraid of Adam Thielen just like vacuuming up targets, I love Jonathan Mingo in the over here. And we're going to tail it off with this. We're going to end the show with this. Donald Parham Jr. anytime touchdown is at plus 425. First touchdown prop is plus 3,000 over on DraftKings. Look, we nailed the Jake Ferguson call last week. That was my big hit. The Jake Ferguson anytime touchdown. First touchdown. That was a big win for us because the props weren't as profitable as I'd like, but the Ferguson hit. So that's my call this week with Donald Parham Jr. So DPJ, Leads all Chargers in snaps inside the 5-yard line. Week 1, he saw 3 targets from inside the 10-yard line and scored. Week 2, Donald Parham outsnapped and ran more routes than Gerald Everett. So we're potentially looking at a starting tight end playing in a game with the highest projected total on the slate by a vast margin, who is clearly a preferred red zone option for the Chargers. Plus 425 for anytime touchdown. 30-1 odds to score the first touchdown of the game for the Chargers. He's 6'8", people. You can't miss Donald Parham Jr., and neither will his quarterback, Justin Herbert. So for me, I love the DPJ call. Anytime touchdown, first touchdown prop, Stone Cold lock of the week, DPJ, lock it in. And again, that's going to wrap up my favorite player props for week 3. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And again, before you go, if you want a chance to win a signed James Cook Buffalo Bills jersey, you subscribe to Betting Pros YouTube channel right now, comment below in this video, and that's it. I'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. Thanks for watching.